All right, welcome back to the Pure Playbook. I'm Dr. Dustin Bosson with the Dr. Nate Merhaut. Excited for another episode. Again, switching it up. We've come off of our pillars over the last couple months.
And pillows.
Yeah, pillows and pillars. Yep, we're off the pillows. We're off the pillars, and we're going to discuss a little more today. Take you a little more through our purpose. Now, don't let me lose you yet. I think this will be very good and dynamic, but we've been asked and we've been taking polls, and we have a whole sticky note basket of information that people want us to talk and hear about. But I think a lot of people have also included in that, like, you guys need to talk about your purpose and your passion more. And it's not just the whole rah-rah. I'm going to give you, from my perspective, some of the tangible things as, yes, I claim this is my brainchild, but this is a team of all of us that are building it. So I'm just here to cast the vision, and, I'm blessed to be a part of it along the way, but it's definitely a team effort. But I want to give on this episode a little more insight into a little bit more of our purpose. And I think, if Sam decides she can jump into, she might even guide us a little bit here. We might ask for her draw to this as well, but I think she's got a pretty good set of information that people would want to know about with how we're coming out with student athletes, not only from a healthcare perspective, but from the community that we're building here. So make sure you follow along, like us on the socials. We've got a brand new website rolled out. I just created a hiring page as we are going to start hiring more team members here at the Pure Athlete. So let's jump into it. I'm just going to kind of lead off and summarize how the Pure Athlete started to exist. And that was, I wouldn't say very simple, but I'm going to make it sound that way, where I just started hearing a lot in family practice about, and started seeing more student athletes, and a lot of their parents, which you'll see all over now, which I've said over and over again, we're really starting to ask three questions. Where do we go? Who do we trust? And how do we prevent injuries? So even in the professional realm, you're seeing a lot of these athletes tearing apart ACLs and Achilles and rotator cuffs. And we've also said these kids are training a ton, 8 days a week, 26 hours a day. I've said that over and over as well. And so I started to make a shift, and I knew I couldn't do it alone, but it's like, what are we going to solve for? And so through those three questions, that's ultimately was my biggest passion, is my biggest why in life, is to be available, to be able to help, to be able to cut a check, to be able to, go help with an injury, to be able to travel, to be able, whatever it is. But when it comes to what we do and what we live every day and what we're so passionate about, it really is solving those three questions, because on the backside of those three questions, if they don't get answered, is another generation that's going to be lacking in health and dealing with injuries that very much could have been prevented.
Right.
So that's a little bit on at least my perspective, and the Pure Athlete coming apart. It's like, well, where'd the Pure Athlete come from? And it had everything to do with how do we do this differently? What are more the natural options? What are things that we're not hearing mainstream? What if it's not just urgent care, antibiotics, steroid injections? What if it is more prevention than reactive? And there's a time and place for all of those things I just mentioned. And I honor that. We have the best critical healthcare in the world. But I think we all can agree that the lack in, whether it's healthcare or sports medicine injury care, is the preventative side of how do we analyze what is going on, what can we prevent, and then what is the action going forward, and what's the plan? The watch and wait is nobody's friend anymore. No. Nobody wants to do that. And so that's how all this started. So the Pure Athlete is, how do we keep them as pure as possible, as injuryless as possible? What are they putting in their body from a nutrition standpoint? They just don't know. Where do we go? Who do we trust? There's so much out there that can be very confusing, either paralysis analysis or the influencer age of, you don't know these people from Adam. And we're trusting, put this in your body, drink the C4, drink the Ghost, drink all, you see all, and it's like, oh my gosh, your liver, your kidneys, the purity of who you are and how you were designed. You were fearfully and wonderfully made, and we just don't know any better, or we just think it's cool because their marketing was great. Right. Yeah. So there's the gist of that. And so, I think you have a similar but different perspective too. So fill us in. On the Pure Athlete side, give it to us.
So what I kind of want to talk about with this topic is also what goes on in the background with us with what you do. And as you were going through the 3 questions, where do we go, who do we trust, and how do we prevent? The how do we prevent kind of came more on board when I came on board, and shortly after that. And I think that's because that's where a lot of what I do sits in that question, and what I try to provide to our athletes. And not saying I don't touch on the other ones, but Dr. Dustin does a lot on those 2 questions to get us the resources and make those relationships within the community so that we can also refer out to the providers that we need to when we need to. And so that's, I think, where our passion is similar, but also there's a little bit of a split where we each have our specialties within the passion on what we do on the background and behind closed doors, and even at nights, evenings, and weekends that people don't see that we're doing, that we can still provide all these resources to you and stay up to date. And so that's where some of my passion lies, is staying up to date with a lot of what's going on with healthcare, what protocols are good. Do we need to create our own? Do we need to follow ones that are already working within the field? A perfect example of that is the FIFA 11 Plus for preventative with a lot of soccer athletes, but other athletes are already picking that up. And just constantly staying up to date with that stuff. And because it's always changing, it's always dynamic. There's things that we're going to tell you today that in 5-10 years from now, it's going to be the complete opposite of that. And that's just because things change. We do more research. The human body changes too, and we've gotten into that on how the athlete today is not the athlete of 15-20 years ago. And so we have to keep up with that kind of stuff. The food today is not the same 15-20 years ago. So keeping up with what we need to supplement, what we need to recommend for these athletes so that they can still perform at a very high level. So that's where a lot of my passion lies, is staying up to date with that. I'm constantly looking at things to make the pure athlete evaluation as well as the pure athlete experience better and up to date and efficient. So there's always things that I'm looking into and exploring and having meetings and conversations with other healthcare providers, other professionals in the field, other forms of technology that are out there, and literally just staying up to date. And it's sometimes drinking through a water or a fire hose, because there's just so much out there that's constantly changing. So it's our job on the back end so that you guys don't have to do it. And that's where it comes into play of, who do you trust? And if you trust us in providing those resources because we're keeping up with it all the time, that, you don't have to do your own research necessarily because we're doing it on the back end.
And so I'm going to feed off of that. And again, just another impromptu episode here. Again, not scripted. Even Dr. Nate's iPad's closed over here. But let me kind of flip this, because instead of us asking the questions, let's explain a little bit about the questions. So when it comes to where do you go? Where do you go? Who do you trust? How do we prevent? So let's just put the Pure Athlete logo right in your face. If I could do all the techie stuff, I'd post it right now. Boom, you'd see the Pure Athlete logo. It says the Healthcare Center for Student Athletes and Professionals.
It would sound like that.
There it is. The Healthcare Center for Student Athletes and Professionals. Why do you go here? So where do you go? I'm going to turn into, okay, let us pitch you here a little bit. Why do you come to the Pure Athlete? Because when we're talking about these student athletes, let's just say 10 to 22, and you want those 3 questions answered. So now, why do you come here? Is one, we've created an evaluation to be able to literally show you, and you can make the decision. And we're going to give you the best of everything, a 4D look inside of your athlete or yourself. Again, the professional side still there. Yes, we focus on student athletes. We're not opposed to seeing professionals. We do. And I also put professionals in there because their parents could be professionals. They could win whatever they do. I don't care if they're a contractor, an architect, a doctor, like they are too professionals. They're professional parents. So there's kind of a pun there. But why you come here is because we have the evaluation, and we can literally show you the data. We can track the progress. It's not just, let's show you some poundage from left to right and, bilateral weight scales and all this. No. There's tangible data that you can see. So that's one reason why you go here. 2 is because, a lot of people are looking for a community that they can trust. So I'm kind of skipping, but they want a community of where do my friends go? Like, what is the spot that I can get everything. And that's another reason why you come here. We're always going to be expanding and evolving. There's things that we've added. We're discussing adding diagnostic ultrasound now to our urgent care side and our diagnostic side of what we do. We already have digital x-ray. Like, those things are going to change, but we have everything you could need here. And if it's not under this roof, I can confidently say 99% of the things that we could see in this office, we have an answer for, whether it's in here or a referral for it. And when we throw around names like WashU and orthos from there, very highly respected around our area and across the nation, that's who we're continuing to build this awesome relationship with. I'm not going to pretend like we're in and they recognize us. I'm not saying that at all. However, there are a couple there that are. And that's why you come here. When you need answers fast. You need people that you can trust. Again, next question. You want a community of where all of these athletes and these parents and these families are going. Two, okay, why trust us? And you were just mentioning this where, a lot of people want evidence-based research. I like to take the research with a grain of salt, because you can make a lot of that stuff look like whichever you want.
Can I stop you there for a second on evidence-based?
Okay. Yeah.
So evidence-based, when people hear it, they think about research.
Thank you.
And it is not all about the research. It is just one piece of the puzzle when it comes to evidence-based or evidence-informed, whatever term you want to use, whether it's evidence that's driving your decisions and your clinical rationales. The research is only a part of that. What the patient experiences and what the patient's preferences are and the clinical experience from the doctor are basically the other two parts of that. And so only a third of that is based on research. So yes, you take it with a grain of salt, and you should take it with a grain of salt, because you can literally look in the research and find anything you want to find.
Yeah.
But it's also how's the quality of the research article you're looking at. So just so you're informed, evidence-based does not just mean I'm looking at research and going based off of that.
Yep. So there's the clinical aspect of that. So taking the research and being in the know of all the information and collaborating with the providers, like you were talking about, between WashU, between Dr. Trent Nestler, between some of the doctors who are creating these evaluations and this technology that we're implementing or talking about implementing. There's there are these articles we can show you. We can break them down. They're trackable, they're traceable, and they're all from sources like they wouldn't be published if they weren't. There's very few retracted items that we've seen and have looked at. So all of those things, it's like, we're not just pulling this out of our ass. Right. Like, we're not just going to tell you things to make us sound smart and you feel like you're okay with it and build trust that build false trust. So we take all of these things into account so you can get the best information going forward. And also, why people trust us, or why you should trust us, is because of just what I said. If we do not know, or we don't have the answer, we will tell you that. Yep. We have told kids, our whole goal is to keep kids between the lines on the field uninjured as much as possible, morally, ethically, clinically, keep them on the field as much as possible. However, we've shut people down, and we've been honest. What do you think? Well, it's not about what I think. Here's what I know. But at the same time too, if there's we can keep them on the field. Here's how, here's why, here's all the information. Now you have a choice to make. Right. And so we're always going to give you the best answer in our oath of being doctors is first do no harm. And so taking that into account, realizing we're dealing with a person, not a number, and protecting so that we can have longevity, we can have proper health, and you get the answers that you're looking for without all the smoke and mirrors and long waits and all of those things. How do we prevent? So let's flip that into, why should we be so focused into prevention? I don't think we need to explain a whole hell of a lot of this. I could get on a passionate rant for this because, again, I'll use, I can use Maddie's story. I can use Peyton's story. I can use, now we can use Bailey's story. We can use Austin's story, like name one, right? And so just imagine, having a high school teen who's great at a sport or just loves the sport. I don't care how great you are. If you love playing, and then suffer an injury where that just takes it all away. And then not knowing that 80% of these are non-contact, and you can decrease 50+% of those by doing the things that we do in here, based on the evaluation we do, based on the tangible efforts that we do inside the office for care. Yet now we have athletes suffering ACL injuries, re-tears, contralateral side injuries, and it's just so sad, because then it's, what if you miss your senior year? Imagine missing your junior and senior year of a sport. Maybe you were being scouted. Maybe that D1 scholarship goes away, or your dream school goes away. And it's so many of those things. And then the identity of who they are. There's so much to this, which is why we need to focus on prevention, let alone, you think club sports is expensive.
Right.
Rip apart an ACL and then 11 months later do it again.
Yeah.
And it's like, holy cow.
When you have a $10,000 deductible.
Yeah. And then beyond that, it's like, how expensive is it maybe for the therapy that comes after that, whether it's physical, mental, or emotional?
Right.
What does that cost down the road? And yes, we can play the what if game, and I don't mean to bring it there, but it really is. That's why do we want to look at prevention? I would say in summary, because we would all do anything for our kids to make sure they have the easiest road to hoe with no interruptions and no pain or suffering at all.
Right.
So if that's not good enough, we can give you more.
Yeah. Very few people can confidently 100% say that they've fully recovered from an injury that they sustained. And that could be physically, that could be mentally. Most people we've talked to that have had previous injuries, and a lot of times it's the adults that we're talking to later in life, and they say, they're still dealing with this, and this. It's like, well, are they still dealing with it because they just didn't do the right rehab and everything that they should have done to the point to get them back to where they needed to be? Is there the mental component that just never healed itself or was even ever addressed that we're addressing with a lot of our athletes, and they need to get through that part of it? There's a lot of subconscious thoughts and things and movements and that kind of those patterns that change, that if you don't address that, it totally changes the way that you move in the way that you're an athlete. And even later on in life, there's someone today I'm working with that we're breaking down the movements and teaching him how to move again, almost as if he's an infant learning how to crawl. And it's just those kind of things that, we're breaking down and making those changes with a lot of individuals that a lot of people don't address. And you can go to physical therapy, you can go to other chiropractors, you can go to orthos, and all those other providers. Very few of them are addressing what we're addressing, and very few of them are doing what we're doing comprehensively with the whole athlete. And that's what the pure athlete is how we break everything down and how we attack it from a comprehensive approach. And you hear that term comprehensive or holistic quite a bit, but the way that we're doing it, and until you experience it, you won't really understand the whole picture of it. And sometimes you might not experience the whole picture of it at all, because we know a lot on the back end and underneath that's happening that we don't even touch on. And it can be surface level, that depend on the person on how deep we go with it.
Yeah.
But
I just want to jump in here and kind of bring this full circle, because Dr. Dustin touched on, he doesn't care about how great you are as long as you love the game. We have an athlete in here who came in for an injury, and she has found the love of the game again so much that she's now looking at schools to play softball at, and that was not on her radar at all before. So it's not it is completely comprehensive when these two are talking about it is full human. Yeah. Full stop. So good news there too.
It's, to be 15 years old, 16 years old and playing in that much pain, and going back and touching on, we talk a lot about other providers. And I've also been very open. Another reason why you come here is because we collaborate very, very well. We collaborate with PTs. We collaborate with orthos. This is not an us versus them. Yes, we are chiropractors by degree. I tell everybody, we're estranged orthos. We went down one route. We're very, very clinically sound in all of that. I just personally figured out that I wanted to be on the preventative side. I was going to go to UCLA, get my biochem degree, be Dr. House, and take all of that all those hard things and diagnoses and figure them out and give people an opportunity in that aren't, that they don't suffer from, or we're not just guessing. And that was kind of my road. And it's like, well, what if I can figure it out before it happens? What if I can what if I can focus on the living aspect versus now we're dying, or now we're vulnerable, now we're, at risk. And so that's why we do what we do. And we collaborate very well. So when you talk about, here's why this is different and why you come here, it's not because you don't need to go there. It's not because we're trying to take people from any other facility or thing. There's another chiropractic office right down the road that's freaking awesome too. And talking about student athletes and preventative, like, we can't see them all. But the reason why you come into our facility versus going to one of those other things, and one of the orthos told us this, and a lot of the PTs, and Nestler told us this too when he got out of the realm of the insurance game and things like that, is a lot of these big facilities, even a lot of the university hospitals, they're talking about it, and they're talking about prevention. They do not have, I shouldn't say they all, so don't group me into all of them. A lot of them do not even have a wing department sector that is prevention, like tangible, in hands-on prevention. They all say we're here for after it happens. That's how they end up here, is after they have the injury, which is okay. There's a need for that. But that's why you come here. It's not because you don't need to go there. It's because the focus is different. And a lot of times, unfortunately, and they will tell you this, their hands are tied for what they can bill for. And yes, a lot of this is going to be out of pocket, but so are your straight teeth a lot of the times. So are the diet plans that you want to do because you want to lose weight. So is the toothpaste you wanted to buy because it's more whitening and your insurance doesn't cover that, whatever it is. And I'm not going to go too far down that rant, but it is something to note that a lot of times the perspective, the avenue of how the care is provided is very much dictated by the structure of the entity at the foundation. And so they can't do that. They don't get paid for that. They can't bill that. And so we just want to fill the gap. And an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. So with all of the things that we provide, mental, physical relationships, the evaluation, the true injury prevention, and all of the protocols that we have here, I would bet the farm and guarantee you will save time, money, and effort. And unfortunately, it's not trackable because we can't rewind 10 years after these kids are out of that 10 to 22 range. Okay, now they're 22. Well, let's go back to 12 and do it your way. We can't show that.
Right.
But what's the risk?
Yeah. That's where changing the way that people think in the community is what we're trying to accomplish as well, because you spend all the money on training, on personal training, on sending kids to camps, football camps, soccer camps over the summers. You spend all the money on all the equipment to, play high school as well as a club or select team. You're forking out all the money to go and travel to play in all these tournaments, across the nation. And you're, in hopes for, next level, college or even a professional career is, usually the driver behind that and to get them to the next level. But we talk about it so often where, just like building a house, if you don't build the foundation first, and a lot of these kids, like we're seeing, they just don't have the foundational movements, and they're getting put into all these very high-end specific training programs that they can't do the movement properly in the first place, or there's something with their structure that they didn't even know about that doesn't even allow them to do the movement in the first place. And we want to be on the preventative side because it's one where more and more of the research is going and it's out there, but people aren't using it. They're using it after the fact, after someone, and being reactive. Okay, this person got injured, so during their rehab protocol, we need to implement this because it's going to be preventative for the next injury. Well, it's like, why not do it preventative for the first injury? Because after you sustain the first one for numerous types of injuries, hamstring's one that jumps into my mind, as well as an ankle sprain, your susceptibility skyrockets to have it again. So if you're not doing something on the front end and you're doing the training, you're doing all the practices, you're traveling and doing and everything, but you're not doing the preventative work, and you might not know what that preventative work is. And that's the resource we're trying to provide, is what you need to be doing with our protocols. We have done it over and over and over again with many athletes, and it's been years and years of researched work that has proven to show that these things are preventative as long as they're implemented. That's the key. You have to implement it for a certain period of time for it to be preventative. And that's how we've built a lot of our programs. And when the athletes are in a sense, the preventative program, they're not coming actively in with an injury or an urgent care scenario. They get put into these preventative protocols based on what their sport is and based on what their assessment shows, so that they're not as susceptible and the risk goes way down with what we're doing here.
Yeah, so hopefully that gives some good insight in flipping those questions. Hopefully that kind of made more sense and was more relatable, because I want people to know that. So it's like, okay, well, who comes, like, who should come see you then? Like at what time? Well, I kind of alluded to, 10 to 22. We have some that are younger. Like, first of all, from a chiropractic perspective, start getting adjusted ASAP. Like, we adjust kids minutes old here. On the sports side, it's like, okay, maybe you didn't know. It's like 10 to 22. I mean, anybody, like, if you're breathing and you're competitive, come get this evaluation done. Just start there. That's it. Start with the evaluation, get the info, let us go through and explain it. And 99% of the time people are like, oh, I had no idea, let's do that. The most exciting thing after you do that evaluation and you go through that initial 3 months, and then we do it again, we relook at this data after we have some time and repetition, based the research, it even can take 60 to 90 days for our protocols to really neurologically, structurally, physically start to change the dynamics to really produce prevention. Well, let's retest in 90 days. That's the most fun part for me. If I could start day 0 and then get to 90 days, like in 24 hours, oh man, I do that every day of the week, because the things that we can tangibly show people and the stories we hear are great. It's like, I'm jumping head and shoulders above the net. I really haven't done anything different. The success stories, the sleep, the digestion, I'm off medications, I'm running faster, I have more balance, I'm more endurance, I'm putting on weight, whatever it is. But retesting in 90 days to be able to show that is huge. So everybody should get it. If you have questions about it, ask us, put it in the comments, call us, DM us, whatever, and we can take you through a little bit more of what that looks like. Either us or Sam or Erica, we can all talk to you and give you some of that insight. But start there. Like, what's it going to hurt to get this evaluation done? And it could really save a whole lot of things behind the scenes. So I just continue to push this evaluation, because at the end of the day, the value for what exactly parents have been asking for is all wrapped up in this. And like I said, it's very dynamic. It's a 4D view, but the other things that can come from this too is, okay, well, we have the evaluation, we have the preventative protocols, and now, well, we obviously have injury protocols, we have urgent care, and we also have the nutritional, the blood work, metabolic side, the nutrition that comes on the back end of that, literally building athletes better from all aspects. And so it's like, okay, again, we can't rewind 10 years and be like, okay, do this again. However, some of these parents are cringing right now of what their kids are drinking, what they're picking up at QT or mobile or wherever on the run, sheets for you guys that are on the run, and wondering like, man, what are they putting in their body? Should they really be eating that? And some parents don't even know, and that's okay too. Like, I don't fault people if it's like, oh, I had no idea. It's like, oh, they'll be all right. The labels that we see now that were also what we ate, I can say 25 years ago now, plus 25, 30 years ago, same labels, same products, same logo, different ingredients, people. Like, if you don't know that, it's not like, please let me just boldly say, shift the mindset of, oh, they'll be all right.
It's not like, oh, grandma used to do that. Nope.
But those are all things, okay, we're moving into coaching on more of that, putting more information out on that, answering those questions. So it's a whole dynamic that's why you come here. Like I said, is you have everything under one roof, one way or another, where you're going to get answers very quickly, very tangibly, individualized to each individual athlete and family. We are going to refire the Facebook pages, because our ideal clientele, we say that 10 to 22 range of those student athletes and their parents trying to keep up. So we kind of have a dual sector, and maybe I'm not the most knowledgeable in this sector, but I think we do have two ideal clienteles, because we have to get the honor and the trust of the parent to be able to see their kid, but we also want the kids to be like, hey, mom and dad, I think I want to do this. So either way, we have, I mean, those are the two clienteles that we really want to see. Now, I don't care where you enter in on that spectrum, just start asking questions sooner and faster.
All I can say is, if you're seeing our stuff, if you're listening to our stuff, if you're exposed
I lost my train of thought
to any of our stuff, one, I would much rather see you on the preventative side and doing the pure athlete evaluation instead of our first contact being an urgent care scenario or an injury scenario where you're coming in here and we have to do a lot more groundwork to get you to where we want you to be even included into the preventative programs. So start out with the preventative stuff. Don't start out with the urgent care or the injury stuff unless you absolutely have to. If you're injured, there's an urgent care scenario, please let us be a resource for you. But if you're listening to this, don't kick yourself in the shins because 2 weeks from now you get injured and you should have done the evaluation before then.
Yeah. So where I was going with the ideal clientele too is we're going to refire the Facebook page and group to just, we're going to do our best to keep dumping information in there and answering questions. It's been open for a couple years. I've honestly not known exactly how to use it. Somebody's like, you should build a group and put all the people in the group and let them answer. I'd love that. Then we got hacked. We got kicked out of it. Thank God we got it back. And, time and capacity, honestly, I just haven't made it a priority. And that's more my fault than anything. But the reason why we're going to do that on Facebook is because the parents are all on Facebook. Everybody who talks to me or reaches out, the kids are all on Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat. So we're going to put a resource. We're going to fire back up that resource page on Facebook. So right now I think it's literally called the Pure Athlete Resource. It might change names. So look for the Pure Athlete private group on there. You can join it. We'll send out some invites for those of you who are in our ecosystem. Look for that, share it out, because that will be a place for us dropping some of the knowledge as far as the research that I was going to say that you're looking at, that you bring to me, but also some of the research that I put out or some of the offers that we do have, because we have more people wanting to personally coach. We have more people wanting to do breath work and biomechanical stuff with you. We have more the nutrition and the blood work side with the both of us. We have, so many things, and we just want to give tangible steps that you can take for whenever it is you're ready, or have you privy to what we might be having to go through depending on where you enter. So on Facebook, look that up. I've considered making another group for the athletes that they can go into as well. So keep a lookout for that. But right now we are going to have that group. Fire away questions in there, stay active in there. Let us be a resource for you. I don't care where you are in the country or in the world. I'd like to say we could find somebody for you if you need it, or we can at least be direct access for knowledge for sure.
Definitely.
What else?
Lots more, but not today. Not today.
Oh, come on. We just got rolling. Well, hopefully that gives a little bit of insight on passion and purpose. Again, protecting and building athletes better, solving for the 3 questions, which you should all know by now. Where do we go? Who do we trust? How do we prevent? And just giving elite level healthcare to student athletes and their parents trying to keep up. So let us be a resource for you however we can. Make sure you follow on social media. Let us know what you want to hear next. We've got a bucket filling up in the front of the office right now with information, which is great. If there's anything that you would like to see specifically, let us know. Other than that, we'll see you next time on the Pure Playbook. See ya.